Feudalism, the long-reigning order of medieval Europe, was not destined to last. Its foundations, built on land ownership and peasant labor, began to crumble with the growth of trade and towns. Merchants, a new class profiting from the exchange of goods, amassed wealth and challenged the old feudal hierarchy. This growing merchant class, the bourgeoisie, desired a system that facilitated greater trade and economic freedom. They found this in the tenets of capitalism, a system where private ownership and the pursuit of profit reigned supreme. The shift from feudalism to capitalism was not a sudden overthrow. It was a gradual process, with the new system slowly eroding the foundations of the old. The Black Death, a devastating plague that swept through Europe in the 14th century, further weakened feudalism. The massive loss of life led to labor shortages, giving peasants more bargaining power and accelerating the decline of serfdom. This shift in power dynamics further tipped the scales towards a market-driven economy. The seeds of capitalism were sown. As the demand for wool increased, particularly in England, a new agricultural practice emerged: enclosure. Landowners, seeing the profitability of sheep farming, began fencing off common land that peasants had traditionally used for grazing livestock and growing crops. This process, known as the enclosure movement, had a profound impact on the peasantry. Once tied to the land, albeit in a system of feudal obligation, they were now being systematically deprived of their traditional means of subsistence. Driven from their land, many peasants were left with no choice but to seek work in the burgeoning towns and cities. This mass migration of dispossessed peasants created a large pool of cheap labor, a crucial ingredient for the rise of industrial capitalism. The enclosure movement, while seemingly an agricultural change, was intrinsically linked to the broader economic shifts taking place. It was a tangible manifestation of the transition from a feudal society rooted in land ownership to a capitalist society dependent on wage labor. Concurrent with the enclosure movement, a series of agricultural innovations further transformed the countryside. New technologies such as the seed drill and improved plows increased productivity. Crop rotation methods like the Norfolk four-course system maximized yields and reduced the need for fallow land. These advancements, while leading to greater efficiency, also had unintended consequences. Fewer laborers were needed on these larger, more efficient farms, further fueling the displacement of rural workers. The agricultural revolution, while boosting food production, also exacerbated the plight of the dispossessed peasantry. It created a surplus labor force, pushing wages down in the cities and solidifying the dependence of the working class on factory jobs. The countryside, once a symbol of stability and tradition, was becoming a source of cheap labor for the burgeoning industries of the cities. The stage was set for the Industrial Revolution. As trade flourished and towns grew, the bourgeoisie, the merchant class of the new capitalist system, rose in prominence. They were the driving force behind mercantilism, an economic system that emphasized national wealth through trade and colonial expansion. Mercantilist policies such as tariffs and monopolies aimed to protect domestic industries and secure raw materials from colonies, all to the benefit of the merchant class. The bourgeoisie, with their growing economic clout, challenged the old feudal order. They demanded political power to match their newfound wealth. This clash of interests between the rising bourgeoisie and the entrenched aristocracy would eventually erupt in revolutions, most notably the French Revolution of 1789. The bourgeoisie, once subservient to the feudal lords, were on the path to becoming the new ruling class, shaping societies in their own capitalist image.